Hi everyone, I'm Scott Komar. I'm a third-year mechanical and aerospace engineering student here at New Mexico State University, and I'm here to give a little insight into the experiences I've had in SystemsGo and how they've shaped me the past few years. So I've posed a few questions and I'm hoping these give at least some kind of light into what you can expect to experience if a student was going through the program. There are a number of things covered in SystemsGo, and I feel like one of the most important is the ability to learn from your mistakes. And I can tell you right now that I've made a few of my own. I mean, two of the rockets I launched through the SystemsGo program in high school, they didn't have normal flights. They weren't very good. But that's okay, because I've been able to reflect and think back on the decisions I made and the rationale I had, and figure out exactly where things went wrong. And that's really a big thing as an engineer, because then you're able to have that self-reflective value that makes constructive criticism pretty easy to handle, and that's something that a lot of people don't have. And that really helps because whenever you're faced with a new project or a new decision, you're able to reflect back on the things you've done and the things you faced, like your mistakes. And that's really important because then you can come up with solutions and think back on, different ideas you've had to come up with the most efficient one. And so I feel like just having the ability to think back on your mistakes is really big because it branches off into so many different areas. And it's honestly one of the most important things I learned through SystemsGo. There are going to be a number of skills that you learn as you go through SystemsGo, but I feel like two of the most important ones that I learned as I was going through it were the ability to break down larger problems into smaller achievable goals and the ability to work in a team. And you're actually going to see that these two kind of go hand in hand. So going back to that idea of the larger problem and the smaller goals, and a good example of this is SystemsGo. Because you're working with rockets that essentially aren't the biggest in the world, but there's still a lot to them. I mean, you have your recovery section, your propulsion section, airframe, payload, all these different things have to work together in perfect harmony for the rocket to achieve its goal. And that may sound intimidating at first, but when you're able to break things down into simpler and simpler concepts, it gets a lot easier to handle. And so it may just be as simple as figuring out, okay, I need to reach this altitude. Alright, once I have that altitude, what motor is going to take me there? Once I have the motor, how am I going to fit into the rocket? How big does the rocket need to be to fit that motor? And once you're able to kind of just piece together all these different questions, you actually see what is basically a linear path that kind of just forms itself around it, and you're actually able to solve the problem a lot quicker than if you were just freaking out about the whole thing in general. And so this actually goes back to the second skill of being able to work in a team, because sometimes there's just not enough time in the day to really handle everything at once, even if it's smaller goals. And that's really important because you need to be able to communicate with one another about what's going wrong, what's going right, where you're at in the project, and that really comes into play later on in the project when you're actually putting the rocket together, because if you've done it correctly, everything should fit perfectly nicely together as long as you've communicated well up to that point. And you can honestly apply these ideas to a lot of different areas. I mean, I can think of a specific example where I was trying to explain to a guy who had designed a remote ignition system for our motor test stand. I mean, you don't want to be standing next to a rocket as it ignites, so of course you want to have remote control where you're able to ignite it from a distance. The issue is, it wasn't. And so I was able to explain to him what I was seeing with the ignition system, what was happening, and he was able to piece together what I was explaining based on the audio and visual explanations that I had given. And so just doing that, just by being able to communicate, I was able to help solve a complex problem just with that simple skill. And so that's really important because you're going to be able to apply it to so many areas, and I feel like it's one of the most important things that I learned. So I've been out of SystemsGo for about 3 years now, but nonetheless it still has a huge influence on my life, and most of that I can attain to the passion that I have for rocketry now. I mean, I wish I was launching rockets every single day. And recruiters and companies will see that kind of passion, and that's the kind of candidates that they look for. They just don't want somebody who has the skills. They want somebody who has the passion because they're going to have the motivation and the discipline to follow through on whatever the goal they're trying to achieve. And I'm just not talking about smaller names, I'm talking about big name companies too, like Boeing, NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic. They're all looking for somebody who's willing to push themselves further than anybody else. And SystemsGo does a really good job of igniting that passion, because you're seeing months and months of work culminate into just a few minutes of excitement and adrenaline but nonetheless, that's still something I try to get back to every single day, and it's what pushes me through school, because I know on the other side of that tunnel, there's really a good career waiting for me, just full of excitement. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. I mean, launching rockets is adrenaline inducing. And SystemsGo is one of the biggest reasons I was able to find my passion. It's really why I enjoy the program overall. So with all that being said, I hope I've given you a decent idea of what the SystemsGo program is like and answered at least some of your questions. But before I end the video, I want to give you a little idea of the kind of payoff you'll get once you've actually gone through the SystemsGo program, especially once you've graduated and decided to attend a university like New Mexico State, where I am right now. And to give you a little idea, I am the lead engineer of the Atomic Aggies. We're the rocketry team associated with NMSU, and we compete through the Spaceport America Cup. And if you're not familiar with the Spaceport America Cup, it's an intercollegiate rocketry competition held out at Spaceport America here in New Mexico, where teams from all over the world will attend with a rocket they've designed to carry an 8.8 pound payload up to either 10 or 30,000 feet using a motor they've either bought or designed. And it's honestly really cool. You get to meet teams from all over the world. But the reason I'm here is to kind of show you what it's like to be an engineer, even if you're just still in college, because there's just so many different areas you can branch into. I mean, this is just one aspect of what is here at school. But nonetheless, this is Archangel. She is our competition rocket from the 2020 Spaceport America Cup. Obviously that didn't happen because of the pandemic, but we were still able to launch here at Spaceport back in September through a partnership we have with Virgin Galactic. It went really well. I mean, it didn't blow up, it's still here, and it exceeded most of our expectations, so I'm honestly happy with how it went, but obviously we always want to be improving, so we're already working on our 2021 Spaceport America Cup called Vertically Challenged. And I'm just going to go through the rest of our shop to kind of show you what all we have. So we have this new vent hood, this equipment. I'm just really excited to show this off just because we just moved in here today. It's honestly kind of nice. This new 3D printer, as well as the kind of workstation that we have. This is all of our storage, so definitely have a lot of it. Rockets aren't small. These are actually all body tubes that will go into Vertically Challenged. And over here is actually our old shop. So we were in here for about 3 years. It wasn't the biggest, but we got by with it, and it all went really well. We had another storage closet, but that was about it. But this room we mostly use for it's kind of loud in here for the air conditioning, but this is the room we mostly use for our kind of dirtier workshop sections when you're working with like epoxies or things like that. We actually roll our own carbon fiber tubes. So if I actually get up here, oh, that's the painted side. Let me see. All right, so you can actually see all the carbon fiber cloth that we've used in this rocket. This is all laid by us. It's actually in a box in that other shop that you just saw, and we use epoxy resins to kind of impregnate it over a mold so we get this, of course, cylindrical shape. And I want to say it's about 95% of the components that we use on this rocket are manufactured here, either, you know, in this room or the other one. But that's just to kind of give you an idea that there's a lot to this thing. We have electronics, recovery, propulsion, airframe, special projects that kind of handles just everything else. You have the analysis team, which kind of tries to determine what the rocket's going to do in flight. So there's a lot to it. I mean, each of those sounds like a fancy name, but each of those subgroups have different sub-projects they're working on. So the more hands on deck, the better. We have about 40 active members, so we're always looking for talented individuals. And honestly, a lot of them, or at least some of them, have come from the SystemsGo program. So it's been a real help to have that overall. But with that being said, there's also the payoff after college. So I actually just accepted an internship with SpaceX, and I can owe a lot of that offer, to get into that offer, to the SystemsGo program, just because I've been able to kind of continue my craft here in school. And companies will see that. I think I mentioned this in a prior question. They're looking for somebody who has all these skills, all this background, with the passion to kind of keep pushing themselves once they've, you know, exited school. But with that being said, I hope I gave you a decent idea of what it's like to at least be an aerospace engineer, as well as a former student of SystemsGo. Hope you have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the video.